Hello class and welcome to lesson 1.9, review for test. Awesome, we've covered all of the material we need to for our first unit test. Now we're going to do a little bit of a review in the warm-ups, and I'm going to let you spend most of the time today working on your practice test, getting ready for our upcoming unit 1 test. It says in warm-ups, list at least 10 things that you've learned in this unit. Please pause the video and write down as many things as you can, and then come back and unpause. Are you ready? Pause. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you actually paused. Please don't say you just kept going. Anyway, all these things that we've learned this year, these are in different orders. These are just different lists that I've created from years to years. We first of all have vertical line test. We know slope. Slope is the rate of change. And based on slope, we learned 3 formulas. Slope equals rise over run. Slope also equals delta y over delta x. Slope also equals y2 subtract y1 over x2 subtract x1. Okay, we then know about the equation y equals mx plus b. We then know that we talked about in warm-ups or in review, we did integers. We also took a look at first differences. So that's from your table of values, ladies and gentlemen, where you use those. Okay, first differences on the change in y and change in x. Those are your first differences. Okay, we took a look at rational expressions or fractions. Fancy name for that was rational expressions. Okay, we also reviewed bed mass. I'm not going to fit them all in here. We'll see if we can, actually. We talked about the CBR. We talked about our y-intercept, which is the initial start value, okay, which is the letter B. Okay, we learned about linear versus nonlinear functions. Oh, there's another one. We learned about functions. Isn't this pretty yet, guys? Need some more black in here. Okay, we learned about interpolation. Interpolation, as well as extrapolation. We learned about line of best fit. Okay, what else did we learn about? Table of values. Okay, we talked about trends, which are upward or downward, but we call that correlation. So we learned about positive correlation. We talked about negative correlation. So that tells us if the trend is increasing or decreasing. But we also talked about, ladies and gentlemen, how the strength of the correlation was based on your R value. And your R value was what we called the correlation coefficient. So correlation. Let me erase that. Sorry. I'm trying to fit it all in here, and I can't write that fast or that small. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Live video, remember? Boy. Sorry, guys. Correlation coefficient. There we go. Coefficient. Okay. What else do we have, ladies and gentlemen? I'm looking here. Oh, we learned a little bit about parabolas. Those are your nonlinear U-shaped ones that we're going to be dealing a whole couple of units on. Okay. We learned about, what else do we have? Function. Each x has its own y. I think we've got function up there. I think that's a pretty good list, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure that if you're writing your own study sheet that you've got those things covered on. Now the last part of the warm-up, which will take more, is a word problem practice. Okay? And you got to be careful with what the question asks. There's several things they want you to do here. It says Pam started a new job. She gets paid $10.25 per hour plus a $100 starting bonus. If she works up to 40 hours, create an equation. then create a table of values, and then a graph, not a sketch. So actually use proper grid paper. If you need to just Google one to get a proper graph paper off the internet, go ahead and do that. And then we're going to, I'm going to try and see if I can cover this up. Haha. Let's see if this will work. Okay, just because I don't want you to cheat and look at the answer right away. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, first thing to do is to come up with the equation. So to get your equation, we hopefully can recognize this is a linear equation. So we need to have it in the form y equals mx plus b. The rate, ladies and gentlemen, which is the slope, is the $10.25 per hour. So it's going to be 10.25 x plus your starting bonus or your base fee of $100. Okay, so what does x represent here? It says 10.25 per hour. So if you're setting up a chart, x is the number of hours worked. Okay, and y, ladies and gentlemen, is your total pay. And I'm going to put above there x and y just so that you know which axes to put them on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it says to create a table of values, it says up to 40 hours. I don't need you to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way to 40. I want you to start with 0 and then say, hey, what's a good range to go up by? And I would say by tens. So we'll go 10, 20, 30, and 40, and we'll fill in our table. Just remember, folks, whenever you're substituting in, you're putting it into the equation, so get your calculator out. So for the first one, it's going to be 10.25 plus times 0. So it's going to be 0 plus 100 is $100. Get your calculator out. For the next one, sub in 10. So it's going to be 10.25 times 10 plus 100, and that'll give you 202.50. Next one, plug it in. 10.25 times 20 plus 100 gives you $305. Okay, if you want to keep everything consistent and have dollars, units, that's fine. And we can put in an axis here to help us with that. So we got our label there. 30, ladies and gentlemen, sub it in, you'll get $407.50. And for the $40, sub it in, you get $510. All right, so then what do you do to set up your graph? Remember that on your test, ladies and gentlemen, you want to maximize the space you can use. So if this is your graph paper, you want to try to get your axes all the way to the side and all the way up. Remember, which one goes on which? Your x is the number of hours, so that's your x-axis here. Your y is your total pay, so that's going to go here. And then you've got to develop a scale depending on how much room you're using. If you're at home, ladies and gentlemen, just use a half a sheet of graph paper. You don't need a full sheet of graph paper just for this example. Okay, the reality of me giving you a full sheet of graph paper to do this is not, I'd probably use a half sheet of paper or a quarter sheet of paper. But please maximize out your grid space. So bring your scale out as much as you can and up as much as you can. All right? So now that you've trying to set up your graph, please make sure that you first of all on your x-axis have time or number of hours worked. It's fine. I have time in hours. Okay. And on your vertical or your y-axis have total pay with your units in dollars. Okay. I needed to finish my table of values first. I knew we had to go up to 40, so I didn't have trouble doing my x-axis. But for my y-axis, I didn't know my limit, how high I needed to go until I found my last value that was needed. Again, check your question to see if it extrapolates. It may say, predict how much she gets paid if she works 60 hours, including overtime or whatever. Then you would have to extend this even further, but it didn't say any question about that. So just be careful of that on your test. All right, so now you've got everything set up, ladies and gentlemen. You've got each scale, each axis has a scale, a title, and don't forget to give yourself a graph title. I just chose Pam's income. And now we're going to plot these points. Just remember they're ordered pairs, so I've got 0 and 100. And then I've got 10 and 202, which is right there. 20 and 305. Sorry, 280, 305 right there. 30 is 407. Takes you a minute or two to do this, that's fine. And 40 is 510. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've got your data. Okay. Do you draw a solid line or leave the data just like that? I.e., could you work 5 hours? Could you work 7.5 hours? Absolutely. So when you draw your line, you can do a solid line to this point. And if you were asked to make a prediction then, folks, you would do a dashed line beyond it, okay? In this case, it didn't ask for a prediction, so you could have just ended there. And the last thing we need to do to have proper label or proper communication is to put your equation on it. So y equals 10, 25x plus 100. Here's an example, ladies and gentlemen, where the relation or the function in this case was given in words, and we had to display it in 3 different forms. We displayed it in an equation, in a table, and then in a graph. And that's something that if you can make connections between each type of relation or type of function, you're going to do well in this unit test. All right, so here's your homework, ladies and gentlemen, to complete the practice test. It doesn't say that here. But I forgot we had to do the tips first, so my fault. So let's just back up. You don't need to write these out, folks, but this is what I've got some helpful hints for you. Prior to your test, get a good night's sleep, stretch before the test, make good study notes, review notes, you do your style. Complete all review and practice questions. I can't emphasize enough, your success is based on that one a lot. And also 5, have an optimistic attitude about the test. Okay? I don't have to say, man, I love math, it's my favorite subject. I just want you to say, I'm going to try my hardest and I'm going to try to do my best, and that's all I'll ever ask of you. Okay? During the test time, folks, just make sure that you have your proper materials with you, your pencil, eraser, your regular calculator. I'll have a ruler if you don't have your own, but try to bring one. Here's a hint, folks, that I use. As soon as you get the test paper, you can write down any formulas or key steps as soon as you get your paper, okay? And the biggest one, and I've started 3 times. Please take a look here. Start with the questions that come easy to you or that you have the most confidence in. Start with the ones that are going to get you full marks completely, okay? Now, the next thing to do, folks, is your homework, which is to complete your practice test. So it's attached here. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Just a couple reminders on your practice test. When it asks for the rule, remember a rule can be a statement, equation, y equals mx plus b. So I would use y equals mx plus b for these 3. And for this one, I would create the equation as well. So I would try to create an equation for all of them. Okay, please pay attention, folks, on the second page or the back page when it comes time to doing this graph. My biggest error in my practice test is this graph here because of the units. So take careful note of the units. Don't count the boxes like 5/1. You've got to be careful of when you do this to check the units, okay? All right, good luck with that, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you in class with any questions with the practice test. Have a great day.